Doc is always right. There's that sophomore coming out of me again. But anyway, grateful for everybody attending here. So what I decided to do is kind of curate a couple of people who basically popped up in Doc's world in certain time frames. And so before I get to that, I do want to acknowledge the fact that tonight, jeez, this has been such a long weekend, that we do have the president of Lehigh University, Dr. Helble, here. And if you don't mind, if you could say a few remarks about while you're here. We're going to take advantage of it.
Thank you. Whether it was a day or 2 days, you got a lot more advance notice than I did. But it's a real privilege to be here with all of you to celebrate the wonderful contributions of Doc Sametz over so many years. I am not particularly musical. In fact, I would wager that I may be the least musical person in this room. But I have a fairly musical family, including my wife, and when I arrived here, when I returned to Lehigh, many of you may know I'm a Lehigh alumnus, but 3 years ago when I came back to become Lehigh's president, about a month after arriving, my wife, who is musical, said, I want to see what this choral union is all about. And so she joined and went to the first rehearsal and came home and just said to me, wow. She said, do you know the quality of music that you have with Steven Sametz conducting this group of community members and students, and in 1 hour or 2 hours, whatever the first rehearsal was that night, she said, I can see that this is going to be something pretty special. I've been here for 3 years now as Lehigh's president, and over and over and over again, for people throughout the Lehigh Valley, from alumni, and from all of you here in this community, I'm continually reminded how lucky we have been to have the talent that we have had on our music faculty, to have had Doc leading us for these 45 years. If I had any musical ability at all, I would have met him when I was a student. It's better for both of us that we did. But as president, let me say that you have been a treasure. Thank you so much for all you have done for Lehigh for so many years.
So I thank you very much for that. So I decided to segment this by decade. And so one of the people that wanted to speak tonight, or I asked to speak tonight, is from the class of 1983. He was Doc's first freshman class. And I'd like to introduce Feaver.
To give 5 minutes, you get 50 minutes. So I had the privilege of being in Doc's first class. I arrived at Lehigh in August of '79, which is when Doc arrived at Lehigh. And I gather that nowadays tryouts for the choir are an emotional crucible akin to the Hunger Games. That's not how it was in '79. It was much closer to how the British Navy would press gang peoples into the... You go through the line and you say, okay, here's my name, here's my ID number, here's the thing, and they'd say, and here's your tryout. And I go, for what? And they'd say, you'll find out when you get there. I don't know if I was your first tryout. I might have been your first tenor tryout that you ever conducted at Lehigh, but I'm pretty sure I was that moment when Doc realized the gap, the yawning chasm that existed between his aspirations for what he wanted at Lehigh and the raw material with which he was used to achieve it. What ensued in those years was the clash, the give and take, really, not a clash, between the irresistible force of this child prodigy maestro conductor and the immovable object of the adolescent mentality that he was dealing with. And speaking of adolescent mentality, this was before he had a nickname. So he arrived on campus without a nickname and without the felt need for a nickname, to be honest. In that first semester, he made it clear that that was one of the Lehigh traditions that was not going to continue. And we were just as determined to say, no, we are going to uphold that. And I don't know if he likes the nickname we came up with, but I know he likes it better than the previous one, because we reasoned if it was boss was before, then he should be bossier. So I was part of his first Lehigh choir, and we were, and there's a table of us there, the OG. We were at the time, therefore, his best Lehigh choir. Of course, we were also his worst Lehigh choir up until that point. And I know we lost one of those titles over the years. We may have held on to the other one. I don't know. But the choir back then did not have the resources that you all, the younger generation, take for granted. The first year, Doc elevated the performance standard. We did, I think, the St. John Passion with a number of absolutely world-class soloists and orchestra, and that left enough room in the budget for a tour to Scranton. That we did get an international tour that fall to Montreal. We all knew that we were under, from the outset, it was clear we were under the baton of a great man. And with his help, we achieved things that we never dreamed of. And speaking for myself, I never dreamed that I would play an inanimate object in a musical about carnal relations between a desk and a chair. But we also knew that we could do even greater things if he stuck it out, and if he built a program worthy of his talents. So Doc, you changed us by teaching us, but I dare say we changed you by teaching you a thing or two. I think we taught you that being Lehigh choir conductor was going to be more of a marathon than a sprint. And I vividly recall the moment when you realized that being a choral conductor involved a lot more than just musical training. And it was on the bus ride home from this aforementioned international trip. I was the food manager, and I had overperformed as food manager in the stock at the ABC store that sold to people who looked as young as me. We had in the back of the bus far more libations than were needed for that trip. And it got rowdy quickly. And I remember coming to the front of the bus and sitting next to you, and you were shaking your head and said, never again. Go to that. You were a wee bit, I don't know how to put this, impatient, exacting, combustible maybe. Then we became in later years. And so let me just look to the rest of the younger people out there. You're welcome. But of course, Doc, you taught us so much more, and we can never repay you, except perhaps by never forgetting you and by always loving you. And in that case, mission accomplished. Well done, good and faithful servant.
Just for the record, that was the last time Deck ever had alcohol anywhere near the seats. Just to be clear. Just a reminder, the president of this university is too, so he understands BS when he hears it. Is there? Good. Like statute of limitations are our best friends right now. So the next thing I want to pull up is from the 90s, and I've done a lot of talking over the past couple of days, so it shouldn't have been me. So instead, I'm going to hand the mic to Tronoski.
The other Peter for me having to follow that act. Are you kidding me? Oh my goodness. So thank you all for being here. Thank you, Doc, for allowing us to ride on your coattails in this celebration. This is awesome. We've talked a lot about community and what brings us together as singers. And I've been, I guess, nominated to talk about the 90s. I would love to regale you with stories that only 10% of you would have any clue what was happening. But I won't do that. So instead, I'll talk a little bit about maybe what singing did for me beyond Lehigh. We all know we've got what we have here in a very tangible way. And I would love to say that I'd like to get a couple of singers in here, and I'll try to avoid them, although I can't help it. In the words of the prophet, abuse is abuse, and... So at least somebody's going to get abused on this in this speech. It will most likely be Doc, but that's okay. So I wanted to tell a little story. After I graduated from Lehigh in 1992 and proceeded to go on to Wall Street and work in various different places. And about 10 years after I got out of Lehigh, I realized I hadn't really been singing. I just didn't have time for it. It's hard to do. It's tough to get to rehearsals and everything else. So I figured, hey, you know what? I'm going to try out for a choir. And I was living in New York City at the time, and I chose to audition for this fairly well-established and somewhat high-level amateur choir. And they had a somewhat rigorous audition process, and it was you had to come in with a prepared piece, you had to come in with a musical resume, which I didn't know what the hell that was. But I did produce that, and then I had to sight read. For those of you in this room who have stood next to me, you will know I'm not such a great sight reader. And I've been singing a long time, and you would think that it would have penetrated my brain by now, but it just hasn't. I'm not so good on the first run, so I figured, all right, well, I'm just going to kind of wing it, and if they don't want me, they don't want me. So this audition, with this chorus that had been around in New York for 100 years, was with their conductor and sort of their lead admissions person. And the conductor had probably been conducting for most of the 100 years that the chorus was he was an older gentleman. I got there and I did my little piece, which I believe it was probably the alto solo from the Messiah, right? Which I had done in high school, which was great. So I kind of brushed that off and did that, and it was fine. And then at that point in the audition, we had to exchange papers. I got a copy of whatever I was sight reading, and then I handed over my musical resume. So I'm looking at the sight reading, right, and I'm just thinking, oh God, this is not going to go well, and I'm almost thinking it's probably worse that I'm even looking it over. I probably should just plow through it when it's over, right? So I'm starting to descend into a bit of a panic, and I hear the woman who took my resume, like a life raft, she throwing to me, she said, oh, you sang with Steven Sametz? Thank you. I look up and I thought, well, hell, if she's going to open this door, I'm going to bust right through it. Yes, I've sung for 4 years with him. I had a great experience. He's incredibly ambitious. We did wonderful things. things. We sang at Lincoln Center. Lincoln Center, really? Yes. And this woman was a huge fan of yours, Doc. Well, I've seen him in passing. I think I shook his hand at one point. Have you sung his pieces? And I thought, yeah, I know him really well. It was great. He's a great guy. He's I think I used the word exacting. Which is accurate, right? And then I thought, okay. And so I'm thinking she's just all fangirling, right? And I look at the conductor, and he's just sort of very staid and in his 90-year-old form. And I just thought to myself, wow, should I really just go for this? And should I just say it out loud or not? And I was so tempted to just say, does this mean I don't have to do the sight? Of course, I looked at the conductor, that was not going to fly, right? So I figured, all right, I'm just going to plow right through this damn thing, and then hopefully this lady will just pull me into the group if I screw it up, which is clearly what happened, because it was a train wreck. So I just wanted to say, what we have here is very tangible when we are here. We have our community, we have our art, and it is so visible and clear and part of what we do. It truly is something we take with us. And I have to admit, all of the years performing, it's helped me in so ways more than just what we do. So, here's to another 45 years of riding on your effing football.
We are just in for an emotional roller coaster for the rest of the day, just so we're clear about this. So I hope you doubled up on your Xanax, right? That'd be a good idea. Going to the aughts, I want to give to Mike, to the class of 2005, Rich Kurz.
I wrote good morning, but I mean good afternoon. And for Doc, I wrote this down because, as you know, when I have solos, I make up the words. It's true, Rich Kurz, class of 2005, and then because Lehigh was very generous with an extra scholarship, class of 2006, and then, because it's hard to say bye, another semester on top of that, so I was here for a while, singing with Doc. It also was about 20 years ago that I was singing here, and if you do the math, that means we were smack dab in the middle of your tenure. And that's hard to imagine. I will say that that phase, Doc refers to as his favorite phase. He tells us that anyway. Personally, I live quite far from campus now. I'm in Fort Worth, Texas, so I don't get back very often. I got a weekend pass this weekend, and it's been a joy. Came back a few days early and have walked around, looked around, and the campus that I knew is quite different than the one that exists today. And I can kind of sympathize with those that sang in Lamberton, and their experience was just quite different than Baker Hall, and what was my experience. When I look around now, there's at least a dozen new buildings and renovated places that I certainly don't recognize. North of Packer Avenue, like going into Southside Bethlehem, is those are parking lots, for us. So it really is amazing. So I was kind of reflecting, what was my Lehigh experience? Because I don't recognize, I don't know what these buildings are for. I mean, I can read the names, I don't know who they are. And I don't think that the Lehigh experience that I appreciated the most is, the mechanical engineering or even the football game that happens before Thanksgiving every year. As best I can tell, the Lehigh experience that I picked up was the community, was the music, and was all under the baton of Dr. Sametz. And I've since left, and I appreciate learning engineering because I've used it. But what I've internalized the most is the music, and I rely on the community that we have built here. That Doc spent his time and his, I would just pause. He is exacting. He was amazing in the concert hall, in the rehearsal hall. But he gave us a lot more too. He was the father of the program. He was also kind of our father while we were out here. We didn't always make the best choices, and he kept his distance from many of those, and I appreciate that. But he was there for enough of them that we knew he cared. And I hope in some small way that as your children for your favorite phase of teaching, I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart, and I know that I represent your favorite classes, and they've told me as well that the time that we had here was special. This is my Lehigh experience, and for that I am forever grateful. Cheers.
Here. I struggled with the choice for who was going to represent the team, so I asked people around. I said, "Who should be speaking for you?" And a strong recommendation was given to class of 13, Big Krainchich.
Here comes trouble. Like everything I like to keep Doc on his toes, so you might think that there'll be a lot of laughs, but I might be the sappiest one here, so we'll see. I want to start with some gratitudes. Funny enough, I'm going to get to Doc last. We'll see if there's any left. But I think Doc has done so much, but everyone in this room has also done so much for this organization. The first group that I want to start with is Choral Union. I think that when I think about the contributions to this program, us students have the luxury to come here and sort of burn bright for the time that we have here. And I think about what sustains this organization. Your wisdom in creating that organization. I see so many faces here that have sustained for decades, and have supported us students throughout all those years. For many, I was very fortunate. My family was able to come to most concerts, but not everyone had that. It really was the Choral Union. It was, their friends and family and loved ones and community that really was a sustaining force that really brought so much success to this program. So I really want to thank everyone who has, again, supported us students and shared their love of music as part of that organization. The next group is a pretty obvious one. All these beautiful faces, the other choral art students, the ones before me, the ones after me. Thank you for the love. Thank you for the fun. It was a lot of fun. A little bit too much, but I think the word tradition was thrown around. Not in the stuffy sense of the word. I think that there's something that's shared here that's so special. And I think it's this gift that we get to pass along. It's given to us by those that come before us. We kind of, you come in here bright-eyed, they seem like idols to you. And it's such a powerful experience to have them kind of bring you into their lives, accept you for sort of the silly, awkward person you are, and with no reservations. And then for everyone who has come after us, it's been amazing to see. I think that, you have been so smart in how you have taken those traditions and improved them and made them better. I think the way I thought about it was, I think that you have sort of healed some of the old wounds of our own ignorance that we carried through a lot of those traditions, and it was needed. It was severely needed. So thank you for everyone who has, came here, and put their vulnerable selves into this organization. I truly have a family here that is, at the heart of the folks that I love in my life. And I will have that forever. That is something extremely special. The next person I want to thank is Miss Sunman. Yes, you. I think your support for this organization is pretty incredible. I think you've done it with a tremendous amount of grace and just the right amount of discipline. I think that we benefit from everyone that comes into our lives and really makes this organization the best it can be, and I think you've been a tremendous part of that. And then Hannah. Thank you for willing to take on all of this. This is a pretty big thing here, right? I remarked to someone, I just had that brief moment with you with warm-ups, and I said, very impressive. That takes some of that, obviously, we could say big shoes to fill, but I think that this organization is here to support and love, and I think that there's a little bit of destiny in all this. I think kind of the parallels of kind of the age and the kind of the experience that Doc came in with. I like full circle stories. I think there's something very special about that. So I wish you the best of luck. I hope you have an amazing ride. This is an amazing organization, and all the best. Okay, I think I have some gratitude left. We'll see about this. So, Steven. That's what I call him, Steven. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. You've touched all our lives in so many ways. You kind of are the common denominator. And this moment sits with me, and it's funny, another speaker brought it up with, your freshman audition. I think about that moment so much. You get to campus, bright-eyed, kind of this wonder, this anxiety, this uncertainty. Someone says, you see a table, hey, audition for choir, and okay, I did in high school, yeah, this sounds like fun. You make your way over to beautiful Zoellner, they bring you all the way upstairs, and then when it's your turn, you go in, and you've no clue what to expect. You meet this man, I made a mess of it, we'll put it that way. But I'm so thankful for that moment that you said yes and you gave me an opportunity, because all of this is because of that. And I've legitimately always wanted to ask you what you saw. it's a moment that really, it seems so small, but it looms so large in my life now. How those little subtle moments can really have such an impact. So thankful for that. Flash forward, I think it was grad school. Another fun moment with you that I really appreciate. Funny enough, in that same office, I had stayed for grad school. I think I had taken a semester off, and I wanted to come back to choir. And, you know, I came to talk to you about it, and, you know, we went upstairs. That's usually where we had our chats. And you said something to me that, again, it's something that has stuck with me ever since. You said, well, Nick, you know, I would love to have you in this choir, but you tend to color choir a certain way. I don't think you realize how much I cherish those words. You know, the opportunity to color choir has been a tremendous honor. Thank you. So, you know, when I've only been on this earth for, you know, not too long of a time, but, you know, when I think about the value that this room brings to me, that this community brings to me, I can already say with such certainty that this will be one of the greatest treasures of my life. So thank you for giving me that, for giving all of us that.
I think it's really quite wonderful. I'll let her talk about what it is.
So it was fun to hear about from the speakers of all of our illustrious choir tours over the years, including the first international one in Montreal. But I reached out to Emma, and she sent me a list of all of the choir tours from 1979 to 2024. So in here is a globe in the Lehigh Brown, and on here is all the dots of all the cities and countries that we have toured. And our dedication is, we gave you our voices, and you gave us the world. Thank you. Cherished memories.
You're going to have to find some other people to decorate your tree now. We thought it was just community building. You were just being lazy. So I know this is probably going on too long, but I do want to take this moment to talk about the people that's been involved in making all of this happen. I am not the one-man show. There's many other people involved, and I want to make sure I call them out now. So, he was here earlier, and he had to leave. From the Lehigh Development Office, we had Brad Superka and Shannon Brad. They were instrumental in guiding us through the process of creating the Scholarship Prize Fund in his name, in Dr. Sametz's name. And really, this would have never happened unless they got directly involved and really pushed a lot of things. So $150,000 is not chump change, people. So really do appreciate all the support from them. tireless Elizabeth Miller. I believe her first question to me was, "You want to do what?" And I described basically everything, and you and your team have executed flawlessly in getting that to happen, and I will be forever grateful for everything you've done this weekend. Chris Sturgeon, you are a mensch among men. Where is he? I have turned around on more than one occasion, and you've just made things happen, especially with this whole weekend, and I don't know how the heck you did it. Karis one time sent to me, he said the best managers are usually stage managers, and I hope that next year you will prove her right. I want to talk about the Operation Swansong team. When Doc announced a little over a year ago to some people, I think I was included in that little small list, that he was going to retire this year, which, like you couldn't tell, he did a best of concert. We figured that part out. There was a couple people that kind of stood up right away, and we organized them, and they were valuable contributors into making sure everything happened the way it happened this week. I want to call them out individually. If you could stand up, I would greatly appreciate it. I think one is not here, but your comrade, Professor Paul Zoellner, was very critical in getting a lot of stuff. I think he's busy doing capstone projects and stuff like that, so appreciate that. Karis, thank you so much for the choral reading. And we're going to go from, I won't say oldest, let's say most experienced, Katrina Branting from the class of 1980. Over there in the doorway, Bob Smith from the class of 1980. And distinguished Peter Feaver from the class of 1980. Part of my crew, Annie Piggy Tronoski. Let's see. Mark Lawson, you still here? Mark, thank you so much. John Kevin, where is he? There he is, John. Stop calling you Jay. I don't know how that got started, but for some reason I've been calling you Jay for like 9 months. Rich Kurz. These next two people, you'll find out why they were really quite valuable members of the team, probably a little bit later today. Casey Rule. Where's Andre Stolyarov? The most recent member of the group is AP, Orlebeck. And I'd be remiss if I didn't actually make sure I shout her praises. Emma Clopton for doing all so much. There's one person that is, I'll call her an honorary member of Operation Swansong, because she was critical in really making sure my communications to Lehigh University Choir went so smoothly, and things happened and coordinated between the choral union and the choir. And plus is a proud graduate of the Penargil Area High School, as were my kids. Rose Valletta. Sure that Dr. Sametz will acknowledge, nothing happens in the music department without the direct intervention and support Ali Horn and Lisa Passara, and they have been absolutely critical in making all these arrangements and getting all this stuff done. So big, big, big thanks to them. So I killed enough time, right? So there's only one more thing to do, and that is to make our way down into room 4. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I was gonna get there. You don't think I would give you a microphone after all this? The most dangerous spot in the whole world is between me and a microphone. Yeah. Again, and probably the biggest thanks is for everybody that took time out of their busy lives to be here this weekend and honor a man who has given us so much. I'll touch base on this probably a little bit later today after the singing, but I've got things to say. So let's hear it for one more round of applause before I give the mic to Dr. Steven Sametz.
Well, you stole most of my material. Thank you, everyone. I'll be upfront. The message is gratitude. Very much so. I'm very grateful and thankful my family's here, my wonderful husband, who is mostly behind the scenes, Dakota, but is also our doctor on tour, and he has been on stage in his third singing for our Voices of Mystery. It's wonderful that everyone's here. And the enlightened leadership of the department through the chairmancies of Dr. Syme and Dr. Zoellner, who saw, I think, if they just let me alone and did my own stuff, things would happen so beautifully. But they also weathered some rough times with grace and poise and intelligence, so much appreciated. Yes, Peter, I remember that bus ride to Montreal. And it wasn't that I was burning up at the end, I was nauseated by the stink of people puking. Because that was a time when I still believed people when they said, oh yeah, we're allowed to have alcohol with us. It was like 17 hours long or something. It was horrific. But, we've since toured to Taipei and all over Asia and all over Europe, and this has been an incredible journey with all of you. And I was reflecting to actually Michael a couple of weeks ago, recent grad, and I just said to him, what are you, 23? So I said, I've known you like 20% of your life at this point. And so, we're good friends at this point. But then I thought, for some of you who are eternal sophomores, even though I have to squint a little bit to make that work, I have known you, some of you, considerably more than 20% of your lives. We have shared a long acquaintance at this time. And that is a family that I cherish very much. And I can't thank you enough. It is given to very few people to have this level of acknowledgement evident in their lives of a life well spent. And you are that evidence. You were so much that yesterday on the stage, and I can't tell you how much I am touched by that, and that you are here. The community, well, I've been asked many times at this point, oh, what are you going to do in retirement? Or how do you feel about retiring? And I think my response pretty consistently has been, it's sand art. We did this thing and it will just, it will go away. And then I think I'm wrong. Rare, but I Antarctica. We have built a community here, and we have done this together, and I can't thank you enough for that. So I'm gonna just let it be that we keep singing. I hope you will all keep singing, and I am so grateful to all of your just being here. There are people that spoke today, whether you were, yes, you were so eloquent. And so many people who are here.